Welcome to the Circle Star Firearms and Outdoors podcast, your home for the latest products and news in the shooting sports, hunting, and the great outdoors. And now, here are your hosts, Jake Cawthon and Jason Westmoreland.
Hey everybody, it is Jake and Jason here from Circle Star Firearms and Outdoors.
Coming at you live from the internet.
On the Circle Star and Firearms and Outdoor podcast.
This is your first day here?
Man,
come on.
Dude, I've had like 3 cups of coffee. I'm running circles in my mind.
I know why. Because what y'all don't see yet on the podcast or on the YouTubes as you're watching it, but we've got a guest, and he is not in studio. We are actually trying something new today. We have our first official call-in guest,
yeah,
and we're excited to have him.
And we went all out, so.
We got that creme de la creme, that top shelf.
So we got Mr. Trey Rigby, and unless you've been living under a rock, you probably know him as the Axis Addict.
And I'm gonna tell you, Trey, I'm mighty jealous. That's a hell of a nickname.
Yeah.
If you're going to get a nickname, that's jealous. A good one.
Yeah, solid.
Yeah, I hate to break it to you, but y'all are going to be totally disappointed if you know this, because
somebody who belongs on this show.
The most unwarranted intro I've ever heard.
I dig it. Well, normally we'd be having a beer, but it's a little bit early, so
Right. Come on.
You can't drink all day if you don't start in the morning.
They make coffee without whiskey in it.
Right.
I didn't know that.
The older I get, the earlier I have to start that kind of stuff. You know, I move slower, so you know it takes me longer to get caught up.
Well, absolutely. Well, thanks for being a willing participant on the podcast here and being our guinea pig on the whole calling thing. We appreciate that.
Yeah, you can count on me to throw you a curveball. So thank you for that.
Oh, we dig that.
And you know, it actually worked out well because for two guys that have absolutely no knowledge in anything that we ever do, it's been kind of entertaining trying to figure out that. I didn't know this little podcast board would do this, and so Frank Baird, B&B, kind of helped us introduce us to you and get you, be part of the show. He's like, yeah, just have them call in. I'm like, I don't think it'll work like that, and he's like, it probably will. So, so if you actually go back and
it looked like a caveman was given an iPhone. Like for 2 days in here, it was just hitting buttons and grunting a lot.
I've got more recordings of me calling my wife going, is it working yet? Is it working yet? How about now? No, damn it. All right.
It sounds like your honeymoon.
Yeah, pretty close.
You need to have an episode of just bloopers. That'll entertain people.
Oh, we could do, dude. I tell you what. So we do commercials on local television stations and stuff, and if they were willing to, it would be just a hair above R-rated because our bloopers are. We got the naughty mouth.
Oh yeah.
And when we drop the ball, which is a lot, it normally takes about 100 takes. For 99 of them, we're cussing a lot.
Well, I figured there's probably a reason you cut it out.
Yes, absolutely.
You got to keep it family friendly, at least on some level.
At a minimum.
Absolutely. Well, guys, if y'all are out there listening, we'd like to invite you or remind you to hit the like and share buttons.
Tell your mom and them.
Tell your friends about us.
And while you're there, go give old Trey a Google. He's got a hell of an Instagram page.
Yeah.
Axis Addict. It's easy. Axis, AXIS.
You'll know when you get on the right page. You'll be envious, for sure.
I appreciate that. Yeah, absolutely.
So, why don't you tell us how it all started?
Yeah, man.
I've been given the Reader's Digest version from Frank. Kind of gave me the backstory, but I want to hear it from the man himself. How did it start?
You know what's funny? He actually was the one who instigated this entire crazy train that I call Axis Addict. It's all Frank's fault.
It's always somebody.
Yeah. You can blame it. You gotta have somebody blame.
Completely. I wanted to start hunting Axis deer years ago, and I went on a couple of hunts in the hill country in the Menard and Brady area, and was relatively unsuccessful. Like shot a doe and kind of came back with a whitetail instead of an Axis at one point. But yeah,
starting to sound like us.
Later, yeah. Just take what I can get, But a few years later, I really wanted to get like a good Axis, and I thought, you know what, this will be a bucket list deal. Like I'm just going to go kill a good Axis. I knew Frank. Like I told you earlier, our company does promotional items. I've been doing that for 21 years. In fact, I've talked to y'all years ago about that. You probably don't even remember, but about logo products and stuff. But so I do all their merchandise products, and that's how I kind of got connected with them. And we've known each other for years, and I knew he was the guy to call. So I called him. I said, I want to get a good Axis deer, no problem. Hooked it up. went, shot the big Axis deer, went home, super happy. I thought, okay, well, that's done. And about 2 or 3 months later, I started thinking, well, it's getting close to whitetail season, and all I can think about is Axis deer. And so, like, however many 6, 7 years later, or whatever it is, here I am still chasing them. And that just tends to be what I look forward to the most. It seems like I love whitetail hunting. I grew up in the Texas woods, like all of us did, and I love it. That's always where my heart's going to be. But man, there's just something about big Axis deer. I just can't shake it.
Well, that's the perfect segue to my next question. Is like, what was it about Axis versus whitetail? I've only hunted Axis one time, and it wasn't much of a hunt. And I've actually this evening I'm headed out with Frank of all people again to we're actually going Axis hunting.
Cool,
but,
good.
Yeah,
I can't wait to hear about that.
But what was it about the Axis that drew you away from the whitetail? Because there's, especially we've had conversations about this in the past. There's a ton of different exotic species in the state of Texas that you can go out and hunt and chase. But why the Axis? What was it for you that did it?
I had talked to, just in my line of work, like I said, I do promotional products, and I work a lot in the outdoor space. So I work with a ton of guides and outfitters around the state, and outdoor retail and TD and everything. So I had already been having conversations for several years about different things to hunt other than whitetails in different parts of the state. And it just caught my interest mainly because whenever I would ask questions, that's the animal that people always brought up, especially in the hill country area.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, that's cool. So, and when I started kind of looking into him a little bit, I thought, that's a really beautiful animal. And then,
gorgeous.
I thought, man, that would look really cool on my wall, kind of deal. And then it just grew from there. I didn't realize how great the meat was until I started consuming that. And honestly, what kind of fuels it now from season after season, I try to go in the spring and summer at least once a year. And what fuels that now is my entire family. That just about all we eat anymore is Axis deer, and our whitetails and stuff. But man, it's amazing.
For those of the listeners who are not familiar with the taste of Axis, I personally rank it at the top of the list, above elk, above sandhill. I mean,
it's in my top 3. I like elk.
We talked about this on a podcast before on meat, and but even above Oryx, I think Axis is just, there's something about it. It's delicious. It's sweet. The texture, it's to me the perfect meat.
Mm-hmm.
100%.
And I said a minute ago, this is really my first real chance at an Axis. This last winter, my son drew a public hunt down at Garner State Park, and you could, if you saw an Axis, you could have shot an Axis, but this was my first real kind of experience, giving them a try, so to speak. And I think for me, it's going to be for as big and how similar looking they are to a whitetail, they are I'm going to say it's smarter. There's I wouldn't say skittish or spooky. It just seems like they're smarter. Like, because the whitetail would just kind of wander in and go, hey, look, there's corn. And those Axis would just kind of hug that outside and real unsure. Like, they knew you were there. They didn't know what was there, but there was something wrong. And it was.
Yep. No, I completely agree with you. And that's something that kind of draws me just, I guess, every year, just because it's such a fun hunt, especially when you're spotting and stalking them. And I've never hunted them with a bow. That's kind of on my list because I do like to bow hunt, but I just like toting around that rifle and just going through from Oakmont to Oakmont, just chasing them and finding a herd with glass and then stalking them with a guide or something. It's just, man, there's just something about it. But you're right. They are so wired up. And compared to, I've hunted whitetails my whole life, and they're smart. They're cagey animals, but man, the Axis are just next level. And everyone I've ever talked to that knows a lot more than I do about them says the same thing. 100%.
Yeah, they. So you and I have a similar experience in the fact, like when you said you started it, you went on that first hunt, you got a big one. The difference in our experiences is I've worked my ass off to get one, and I still haven't got one yet. I've got does. Funny story about how this is gonna. I went out last year and hunted really hard, and it was about this time of year. I just sweating, dying, stalking, doing everything I could. 5 days. Never got one with, within any type of range that wasn't moving quick. And at the end of the 5 days, my wife, who'd never shot anything before, never had any real desire to, pops up when I get back to the lodge, and she's like, "Guess what I did?" And 36-inch Axis, center punched it at 100 yards, and it hangs on the wall, and it's the first thing I see when I walk in the store every day. And it's just
oh no, he's downplaying it. He spent.
She loves to rub that salt in that one.
Oh no, I do.
And she will always. Well, everybody in the store knows it. I'm salty about it, so they'll.
This is the fun part about this whole story because it evolves, right? Every good story keeps kind of growing as it goes. And so what he's downplaying is that while he was, and this is,
it started a feud.
We have this friendly rivalry going. And so my bucket list item was an oryx. I always wanted to kill an oryx for two reasons. One, they're delicious. Two, they're on the endangered species list, so there's something kind of fun to be said about that.
Makes it taste a little better.
It does, right? That rarefied air. But so he spent all this money on this hunt to kill this big Axis because it's his trophy list animal. And he can't make it happen, so he just goes, I'll shoot this massive oryx and rub it in Jake's face.
Not exactly how it happened. No.
So your wound became his wound.
Close. Well, what happened was that I'm with the guide, and we're cruising around, going back, and it was my last day of the hunt before I get back and get humiliated by my wife. And he throws the binoculars up, and he just starts cussing right and left. And I'm like, "What's wrong? What's up?" And he's like, "That effing goat." And I was like, "What goat?" And he's like, "I got a goat out here that is like a ghost, but he fights all the animals. I've got one of my best oryx out there, and he broke a horn off." And he's like, "Nobody wants to shoot one with a broken horn." Yeah. And he's like, "I tell you what, I'll give you this like dirt cheap, and I'll pay the taxidermist to fix the horn." And I was like, "Man, that's really tempting." And then, the thing that pushed me over the edge, I knew that was Jake's bucket list animal. Mm-hmm. So I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." So karma got me when I got back to the lodge and saw my wife's Axis.
And it's continued to get him because the agreement I have with Frank for this hunt is that the goal is to take an Axis so large it becomes unobtainable to beat it. Like I wanted to sit there on the wall every day just mocking him. And that's the goal.
Well, when you get it on the wall, call me. I'm going to drive to Anderson and I'm going to check that sucker out.
We talked about it. It's supposed to be 38 inches and it's forked. It's got I don't know. He's called it non-typical, and I'm not the Axis guy in this conversation, but it was enough that his dad, Mike, called and said, "Hey, we got you. It's amazing." I'm like, okay, cool.
Hey, trust him. Trust him. If anybody knows.
Yeah, I figured if Frank's getting excited, it's going to be a good one.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I might even hang it in your office.
So yeah. Oh, go ahead. Go. Yeah. When Frank calls you, that's normally a good call.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, just trust them. They know what they know the sights and sounds out there. So if they're saying it's a good one, it's a good one.
So on top of hunting, pursuing that passion by yourself, going after Axis, do you guide at all or?
I don't.
Okay.
No. In fact, I get that question all the time. Like I make it very clear, I get people ask at least 2 or 3 times a week, "Hey, what are your rates?" Or I'm like, "Hey, I don't guide. Like I don't outfit. My customers do that. I sell promotional items for a living. That's what I do. I work with those guys. Here's a list of my customers. Depending on what their needs are, I'll sometimes qualify people. I'll say, like, well, what are you looking for? You want an archery hunt? You want a high fence, low fence? You want a hill country hunt? You want something closer to a big city like Houston or Dallas or something? Or, just kind of get their needs or budget, whatever, and then kind of recommend some good places from there. So.
And just from, I did a little internet stalking of you last night trying to get prepared for this. And you must be really, really good at suggestions because your Instagram is nothing but stud after stud after
amazing Axis.
So
I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you very much. But trust me, that I don't deserve any praise for that because I tell all the guides and stuff that I work with, you guys are the ones that are doing it. I mean, and I hate to say it, but like if I go kill a big one, I'm not going to pat myself on the back for it. It's cool, but or if anybody else does, I hate to say it too. But they probably shouldn't either. If they've got a really good guide, they're the ones doing the work.
Yeah.
They're out there scouting. They're out there filling feeders. They're out there with binoculars in the afternoons before you get there. preparing your meals, making sure your bed linens are clean, whatever. And so, yeah, we're just the guys who get to pull the triggers. So. But thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and we know from, well, exactly, you are speaking the gospel truth because, a guide will make or break a good hunt.
In a hurry.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. Now, if it's a DIY thing, I know a lot of people have deer leases in the hill country or whatever, and they just happen to have Axis on them.
The low fence? Yeah.
That's a different ballgame. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I still say it all the time. I moved into my house 8 years ago now, and it was about 2 months after I moved in. I was mowing. I live on 5 acres here in Grimes County, and I was mowing my yard, just not thinking about it, just you mowing your yard. And out of nowhere, here comes 2 Axis does across my side pasture, and I had nothing. And I'm sitting there panicking. I stopped the lawnmower. I'm staring at them. They're staring at me. I know I can't run inside because they're going to bail. And I just had to watch 2 wonderful tasting Axis does just wander off. And for 8 years now, I've never mowed without a weapon, and I've never seen an Axis.
But you never know what else may come out, I guess. But
yeah.
That's we've got a small ranch, smallish. It depends. I guess that's a matter of opinion. But yeah, we've got some land there in Grimes County as well. And every now and in fact, my very first Axis, it was shot on that place. But it had obviously come from a high fence place somewhere around there, and it was about half grown, and I was out checking a food plot, and I just happened to have a 22-250, which is not ideal, but that's what I had. And hey, he ended up in the cooler that night. But yeah, every now and then we'll see an exotic roaming across our field or something, but it's like once every 5 years or something.
I've had a similar experience somewhere around here in Grimes County where I might have, taken an elk or a red leechway or black buck.
Right.
You never really want bad stuff to happen, but you're never really that mad when a storm blows through and it dents a hole in a high fence. All of a sudden, the good stuff starts walking out.
The ranch might be for sale, and all of a sudden, nobody's maintaining it, and the next thing you know, you just got
How come this gate's been open for 3 days? Yeah, it's a little weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, that's always a nice surprise, though. So I got my wife's family has a little place in College Station, and same kind of experience that Jake's had. It has a little herd, 20, 30 Axis that'll walk through, and I've caught them on camera over the last 15 years a lot, and I have never once seen them when I'm out there hunting.
It's like they know.
It's like they know. It's a heck of a challenge, and I agree with you too. Like a huge, 6-point Axis with the spots, just everything about them, that face. I think it's probably the prettiest animal out there too. And yeah, I'm obsessed. It's my bucket list, and I got a feeling after I do wind up getting one, I'm not gonna slow down. I'm gonna keep wanting to do it.
Just keep the foot on the gas and keep going. So that's kind of my problem there with the elk. Where your Axis story is my elk. I have yet to connect with a good one. I shot a raghorn a couple years ago, and I've had a couple year drought, and I've got and this year I think we did our homework right, and we have a hell of a guy that's like ready to go. He's like all guys, promise the world, but let's see how he delivers. But I have faith in him, right? But I keep saying that, once I check off this elk off my list, I'm going to go start chasing other things because there's other animals that I'm interested in, but I just keep pouring my time, effort, and money into an elk. But I'm afraid that won't stop it. It's just going to
Keep
spur
on going.
more.
Yeah, there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where would be your, like we mentioned the hill country, is that your jam? Is that is anywhere in the state, if you're going to hunt an Axis, is that where you would prefer to go, or further south, or where's your, I'm not asking where your honey hole is, but where's your favorite place to hunt them at?
Sure. Well, and candidly, my honey holes are basically the honey holes of whoever I hunt with. To give you a real short answer, yeah. So the real short answer is the hill country. Yeah. So somewhere in that central area, just and especially if you're after low fence animals, high fence operations. You can spread the range a little bit there depending on what your interests are and needs are as far as accommodations and stuff. But yeah, I started hunting Axis really hunting Axis with Frank at their place in Grimes County. But ever since then, I've got some other customers as well that do a lot of low fence hunts in the hill country and more of a spot and stock operation there. And I've kind of focused on that the last few years a little bit more. Not that there's anything bad to say about anybody else's operation, but it's just kind of the spot and stock deal has kind of got me a little bit.
We're right there with you. Yeah.
And the upside to it, and it probably makes it a harder hunt, or let's not call it harder, a more challenging hunt, is that the terrain of the hill country very closely mimics their home range. So there's a certain comfortability they have there of being able to just take off, disappear up here. And so if you're going to add a challenge to it, the hill country for an Axis is where it's at.
And everything in the hill country either wants to bite you or stab you. Mm-hmm. So that adds a little factor of challenge to it for sure.
So and just the sheer numbers too. It blows my. Every time I go, I am literally more amazed every single time at the number of deer, Axis deer specifically, that I'm seeing. And a lot of the ranches that I've hunted with, last 3 years in a row, I've hunted with Brandon Blanche in the hill country. He runs El Sapo Guide Service, and he's amazing. His operation's amazing. But the properties he's got, and I work with a lot of them that are similar, they're just covered in Axis. It's nuts. Wow. Like, you can go out in a field in the evenings, you might see 80 or something like that. And I mean, there may be 10 whitetails mixed in there or whatever, but just the not just the amounts of herds, but the amount of deer in the herds is crazy.
So do you think they've made a full recovery yet from our snow apocalypse here a few years ago where we had the big die-off?
As far as full, it depends on the property, I think, because some properties were hit a lot harder than others, depending on the way they're maintained and who's out there managing them through those types of storms and stuff. But I think all in all, they have. I mean, Infinity Outfitters is another customer of mine in the Menard area. Mm-hmm. And I think their ranch that they're on is about, I want to say it's around 10,000 acres. And they had a huge die-off of black buck and Axis both.
Black buck took it hard. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In fact, maybe even worse than the Axis. But they took 2 years off out there completely. I don't think they shot any black bucks or Axis. And man, this year they're back in full force, and they are putting some big ones on the ground.
Man, so I love hearing that, because we, being in the industry we're in, we saw these just horrible videos where people just had flatbeds and dump trucks full of just monster Axis. And
you still see a lot of photos of folks that, getting trail cameras that they're missing 1 ear or both ears because they, frostbite got them.
Yeah. So, man, that's encouraging to hear from you. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Man, and I don't know, something happened this year, at least in my opinion, from what I'm seeing. I mean, there's probably, there's a bunch. Safari Specialists, TO Outfitters, Texas Hunting Resources, a lot of these customers I work with that contribute a lot to the page. And man, it is just one monster after another. And I mean, I've said that in years past, but this year, in El Sapo too, I mean, it's nuts. Well, I mean, I've never seen the amount of huge deer that are hitting the dirt like I have this year.
I think a lot of it has to do, and you're already seeing it in early in horn growth and the trail cameras I'm getting in the whitetail where I'm hunting at, is that with it's first week of July and I still have to mow my grass. If I don't mow it once a week, it's already too tall. I mean, we had so much rain in the first half of the year that the grasses, the forage, there's food for them. They're not as desperate as they have been a lot of years. And I'm no biologist, but I have noticed, especially in the whitetail herd around my property that I get to hunt, is that, and maybe there's we got to find a biologist at some point to ask this question, but in my anecdotal,
I'm not a biologist, but I'll take a look.
There you go. That's a gynecologist.
Oh, sorry.
Completely different thing.
Yeah.
That it seems like on years like this, the bucks will put on a lot more mass, a lot more horn growth while they can, and especially with like the does, and this may be the same thing in the Axis world, is that they'll drop twins or they'll have a larger fawn crop because there is places to hide, get away from predators, forage, and it's just better for it's that bounce back year from like last year was so dry, it was horrible everywhere.
Horrible.
On the biology note, Trey, so for the folks who are listening, they're Axis originally from India, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
India and Sri Lanka.
Okay, and then they're different in their antler growth than whitetails. Is that right?
They are. Yep. They can basically, depending on their birthday, they can drop or grow antlers pretty much at any time of the year.
So it's just an annual cycle as to Okay, yeah, which is very different from
basically.
whitetail.
And the majority of axis deer will breed during the summertime. So, consequently, most of the bucks in the general area are going to drop their antlers around the same time and regrow them at the same time. But that's not a hard and fast rule. There's some axis deer that are completely opposite. Like they're hard hoarding in the winter and they drop them in the summer. So it just depends on that particular axis. And there's certain properties that will carry, more of a winter herd versus a summer herd, but by and large, most of them breed from about May to mid-July or early August, somewhere in there.
So really, it's on you. Like it's an animal that you can hunt year round and take a trophy, which is
That's neat.
freaking awesome.
Yeah,
I can't.
super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not many more like that. That's just
No, and the fact that they're an exotic species and they truly are invasive. And I listened to a really good podcast from a former professor at Texas Tech that studied almost primarily whitetail, like almost exclusively whitetail. I'm sorry, exclusively axis deer.
Okay.
And he said that they are literally the perfect invasive species, almost like our wild hogs are. They can eat almost anything. They can live and survive on almost any type of food source, as opposed to whitetails. They'll outcompete whitetails. They outbreed whitetails. They're bullies.
Mm-hmm.
So they actually, like, nothing really competes with them in a feed type setting, because they're bigger and tougher than the other animals. Other than hogs, apparently hogs are like the number one bully that's out there. Nothing really messes with those.
Yeah.
But they just push the whitetails around, and I think that in a lot of those, especially the western part of the hill country, when you've seen a lot of these huge expansive ranches that are 8, 10,000, 15,000 acres or whatever, when there's more axis on them than whitetails, I think that's why. The climate, the food sources, they can browse, they can eat browse, they can eat forbs, they can digest things differently, and they breed year round too. So they can potentially, instead of having just one fawn or two fawns in a one given birth cycle annually, they might have twice as many in 1 year. So it's
hard to
crazy.
compete with.
So
yeah. And for
absolutely.
those guys who have those 10 or 15,000 acre ranches there that want to focus on native species like whitetail, all of a sudden you got a problem. Yeah, if the axis are pushing them off. So
and that's something I've always been told. The hard part, especially if you're going to try to run an exotic / native, like a whitetail hunting operation, is that you have to fence out, and it's tough. The fence out or a way to separate your axis herd, because they will absolutely, that axis and elk will bully whitetail out of the way to where your whitetail herd actually will take a hit because of them.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing. And I've heard that from actual biologists too, not just my own observations or thoughts, but like people that are actually, like, they're doing this for a living. They're managing the ranches. They're in the thick of it all, and that's exactly what they're saying.
I've heard a lot from several different landowners, especially low fence landowners in the hill country, that it just like, for us here, in Southeast Texas, we're griping about pigs coming in and tearing up hay pastures and running our deer off the feeder, and just being
real problem.
Just being a regular, just a regular gripe that the pigs are, that they're having the same thing, especially with the axis. Is just that and it's not just in the affecting my whitetail herd, but I've actually talked to several cattle ranchers that the axis are coming in and out, or bullying away the cattle from feed.
Cattle off the cubes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. See, I haven't heard that.
Yeah,
that's okay. That makes sense though.
Yeah. So maybe with a bumper crop and those type of invasive issues, maybe the price, because of all the trophy hunts you could go on, I would say axis is probably the most reasonable.
Mm-hmm. It is for now. I'm kind of wondering if it's going to turn into the next Audad type deal, where a few years ago.
Don't get me started on that, man. Dude, I used to get invited. I got these. If the rule on a lot of these ranches, hey, whatever you're hunting, hunt it. But if you see an Audad, you better shoot it. Otherwise, you're not going to be invited back.
Yep.
I'm like, cool. Okay. And now it is not like
it's
that.
Like, hey, if you want Audad or $5,000, I'm like, no.
Oh, I mean minimum. Yeah. It's that's become the destination hunt for a lot of guys that don't want to go pay for a bighorn or a stone sheep or something like that.
My God.
Yeah, if you're gonna goat hunt, I guess you can ball on a budget with an aoudad, but
Yeah, well, compared to $125,000 for bighorn, they
don't.
yeah.
See, I'm
Gotta
gonna
get that governor's tag.
Yeah, if there's ever a chance for me to run for office, I'm gonna be like that dude that ran in New York City a couple years ago, complaining the rent was too damn high.
The rent is too damn high.
It's gonna be the same idea, but I'm gonna just like price of hunts are too damn high.
That's gonna be what you run your campaign on.
100%.
I get behind that.
We're going to make hunting great again. Bring that back. We're getting prices down.
Oh, you got my vote. I'll tell you.
So,
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm just a working guy.
Yeah.
You know, I'm about as simple of a man as you can come across. So yeah, if it's affordable, I'm in. So
Well-
there's a lot of hunts that are immediately off my list, whether I want to do them or not.
Well, I know this is a little off topic, but this is what we ran into this last year. I've developed my own term. It's called oblivious poverty, and I absolutely live in it. It's just where you make just enough money that you think you can do about what you want. You know, you may not be like Saudi rich, but you can go on these trips and kind of you're comfortable.
and then you walk into Dallas Safari Club.
And you don't realize how poor you are.
When you see somebody impulse buy a helicopter, all of a sudden you're like, oh,
Or he bought
Well, see,
I saw a
I'm
dude.
so poor. I'm so poor. I've never even witnessed that. So there you go.
See, I watched a guy buy a Cashmere Markhor for $180K because it was too good of a deal to pass up.
Yeah, what a bargain.
and I didn't really know the intricacies of the Marco Polo Club.
Oh yeah.
Holy crap. That is, obliviously poor.
Yeah,
That's me.
Just a different level.
I was a lot happier before I went there.
Well, let's talk about some hunting we can't afford. What
We talked about a cheap trophy. What constitutes a trophy? How do you like Axis? You know, I personally, haven't had the opportunity to take that monster. Jake's gonna, probably whiff on a shot tonight at one. But how do you identify? Is it mass? Is it height? Is it width? Is it all the above? Like what
Yes.
appeals to you? What are you after?
Yes, all that.
All that?
Yeah. It just depends. It depends on people's opinion. I mean, I think I always hear the 30-inch term. That's the 30-inch mark is kind of the benchmark that everyone wants to shoot for, or more. What drives me nuts, though, and it took me a couple of years to pick up on this, but what drives me crazy is when everybody just talks about main beams. They talk about, I want to kill a 36-inch yet. Well, that's great. But what are his coddles? What kind of brow tines does he have?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times you might see a 32-inch main beam. Like for instance, I've got a few on my wall. Not many. Probably not nearly as many as people think. But I think the longest main beam I've got on my wall is 33 inches. But I've got one that scores over 150. I think he's 152 from the hill country that has 13-inch caudal tines. That's
huge.
to me.
Yeah, that's
impressive.
wild.
I would rather shoot personally. I'd rather shoot a 32-inch main beam with 10 or 12 or 14-inch caudals and nice brow tines than a 37-inch main beam with 2-inch caudals.
Mm-hmm.
That's just me. Or if the deer's really wide, that's a big deal. I mean, you're getting potentially an extra. Where width on a whitetail, it matters. It's a few inches, but compared to all the other tines they've got, it may not make that big of a difference. With an Axis deer, it can. I mean, if you have one that's 24 inches wide versus 32 inches wide, all of a sudden that's a different ball game because that adds a bunch to his score.
Yeah,
so.
you're not getting a whole lot of measurements off of an Axis compared to a whitetail. So that extra, that 8 inches, it makes all difference in the world when it comes to trophy
correct.
scoring.
Yeah, the one
100%.
the only one trophy I've been around on the ground that my wife harvested as I was approaching.
Where's sad trombone on this thing?
Quit it. As I was approaching it, it's the only animal I believe I've ever witnessed being shot that had reverse ground shrinkage. It had ground growth because the closer we got to it, I was like, the big ones like that are just so impressive, man. Yeah, I'll get one day.
Yeah. It'll happen.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know the right people, so yeah, it'll happen. But yeah, it's one. I'm more about overall score really than anything else. Like, and it's kind of funny. I've even made the comment before. Like, almost a little weird, crazy part of me kind of likes shorter main beams because it makes the caudals look that much longer. So it makes them look.
All
it's
about
kinda,
that
it's kind of a
perspective.
backwards way of thinking.
Yeah, I get that.
It's like buying the mini Coke cans. Wait, that's something different.
Yeah, that's different.
Yeah, that's right. And mass is something else too. I mean, to me, when you get that mass or little extra kickers or character, that just proves age. And I'm all about shooting and hunting for age more than anything else. So that's just me. But yeah, I mean, if you can, the gold medal mark is 149 SCI total score. So, hey, if you can get something in the 140s, that's a great deer. If you can get something in the 150s, that's an absolute monster. Anything over that 160s, shoot. I mean, that's a lifetime deer in my opinion. So,
yeah, I don't think anybody would disagree with you. That's
not at all.
That's a monster, man.
So how do you prefer to hunt them? Are you a spot and stalk? Do you blind hunt them? Do you high rack drive? Like what's in your experience? What's your preferred way, and what is your most successful way?
I've done it all three ways, but my preference is always and primarily this is what I do with Brandon out in the hill country too. But we'll sit on top of a knoll or a hill or something and just glass a hillside, glass a valley or whatever for 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it takes. If we don't find a herd, move along, find a herd with your glass, and then just find the wind and try to find a way to stalk up on it. And that tends to be.
I get that 100%.
I mean, and to me, I don't know if there's probably other ways you could do it that are maybe a little easier and maybe even more successful, but that's the most fun to me. So hey, let's go for it.
That being said, you said you want to take one archery eventually. That's my goal as well. Would you try to do that spot and stalk? Is that even doable?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. There's some guys that's their thing, is to spot and stalk archery. I mean, of course, it's like anything else. Your odds are a lot lower,
right?
But there's some guys that are very good at it. To answer your question, it just depends on who I'm with and kind of what they would recommend, But I'd be personally a little bit nervous about spot and stalking anything with a bow just because I've never done that. I've always shot my bow out of a blind or a tree stand.
For me, it has been an overwhelming and underwhelming experience. Nothing gets your heart beating like it, especially like Jake and I do with the elk. Mm-hmm. We've gotten so many, so close, and you still get that buck fever every time. But the underwhelming part is you have to be skilled, self-controlled, but a lot of luck. A lot of luck comes into play there.
And I think for me to have to do with how my hunt was structured. If I had a lease in the hill country and I got to hunt 365 days. Yeah, I'd be out there spot and stalk, creeping around with my bow because coming from really getting into Western state hunting, I mean that's where I've started with whitetail, just wandering around the property with my rifle. If I see it, there's a doe I need to take, I'll shoot her that way. I don't really sit in a stand anymore. But if I'm paying good money for a 3 or 5 day hunt, I'm gonna put the odds in my favor.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what drove us towards elk hunting and Western hunting in general is that ability to spot and stalk. And I think, with the Axis, you get that same thrill, right? You actually have to, like you said, put the wind in your favor. You spot them, move in on them, make sure everything's kind of, the stars line up just right. And I dig that kind of hunting, man.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Well, and honestly, that's kind of new to me. Until I started Axis hunting, I never hunted that way because in Texas, we do things a certain way. You're either in a box blind or you're in a tree stand with a bow or whatever. But once I started doing it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is a lot of fun. I actually get out and get to move my legs a little bit. So
and if you are going to hunt like Jake's going out this evening, it's going to be 102 degrees. You don't want to sit in a box blind or even in a stand, any type of stand, a tree stand or whatever, because
I don't want to go outside right now, much less
nobody does. Holy crap, it's hot. And,
right.
You that's when that spot and stalk really becomes enjoyable, more enjoyable. Anyways, you still gonna be miserable, but enjoy it a little bit more.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? Yeah, I mean, a lot of it depends on the property too. I've got a customer in Junction that he says they've tried spotting and stalking on their place. It doesn't work on that particular ranch, not that area.
Right.
That ranch, he said, it's just too thick. You you can't glass enough to where you can find them and then spot you. The only way to hunt them is just to sit and ambush them. You know, I think that's wrong with that
that's
either.
the way the property's laid out. You know, it's what you get.
Yeah,
Yep.
you got to pattern them, figure out right where they're at.
Some places are just too thick, and you know you're going to be either busting herds left and right, or you're going to be wasting your time in an area where they're not even in there. So it just depends. If it's something that's too thick, you just got to do what you got to do.
Gotcha.
Do they tend to move more in the day, be more nocturnal, or when they, if they don't move a lot at night, where they bed in the evening? Is that where you're going to find them in the morning?
I think they're kind of a 24-hour species, really. I mean, I've heard different accounts on this, and then I've kind of seen things I've seen evidence to kind of contradict it a little bit. I've always heard that they're not nocturnal at all, like axis deer, or specifically they're a daytime animal. You know, they're moving throughout the day. They're bedding in fields as opposed to big thickets and stuff. And then I've also seen footage and talked to other people that said, no, I mean, we're literally, because you can legally hunt them at night because they're an invasive species, and they're out in the middle of fields grazing all night long. And so I think a lot of it may depend on the phase, and stuff. But
I've sold a ton of thermals to people for that exact reason. They're wanting to know, hey, I've got a good axis herd on my property. I can't get them in the daytime, but I want to make sure I shoot the right one. Can I see hard horn at night?
Yeah, those are the guys who wind up paying.
Good question.
They wind up paying big money for the most sensitive thermal out there because they don't want to.
Yeah, they want to shoot the wrong one.
The wrong one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. That's something I never even realized because I've never hunted anything with a thermal at night. But,
no, we could fix that next time you're down around here.
There you go. Especially since you got to land up in beat ice. Let's go.
Yeah, hey, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, we need some help on hogs.
Yeah, we'll get your whole secondary career as the pork addict, pig addict. I don't know.
Pork addict.
We'll come up with a secondary page for you.
Use Kermit the Frog as his mascot. I like it. All right, so it comes to the time of the show where we're going to let you take it away a little bit. We want to hear your ultimate, that top. What is your best hunting experience, axis experience? Like, what's the one that when you go to bed at night that still pops up in your head that you can't get over?
Oh gosh. Okay. So axis specifically, actually, I'm going to back up. My best hunting memory is I'm talking total stuff here. It's probably hunting with my kids and just watching them harvest things, but neither one of them have killed an axis yet. That'll probably change this coming spring. So yeah, we'll work on that, and maybe I'll have a part 2 for you. But
yeah, that's going to resonate with everybody that listens to this show probably.
I just figured you're out there, you're snaking the max out from underneath your kids. Be like, Junior, you can't shoot that far. Let me take that one for you.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, give me that gun. Yeah. As far as axis specifically, this might shock you and everyone listening, but I would have to say that my most memorable hunt was my least successful hunt. And it's only because I learned so much from it. So
we get that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and maybe people can relate to that. Maybe it's not such a bad thing. But I mean, as far as my most fun and maybe rewarding hunt, that may be a different story. I've got a few, but that one maybe this past year, I went and I went with Brandon El Sapo Guide Service, and we went to Sonora, one of his properties there, and we were driving around just kind of killing time. He called it filler time because, the axis weren't even supposed to be really up on their feet or anything. And within an hour, we had one on the ground that had an extra caudal. And I mean, it was just like, what the heck? I looked at him, I was like, what just happened? Like, we were out just messing around, checking trail camera photos and stuff. And all of a sudden we're taking pictures. So whatever, but that was probably my most fun and rewarding type hunt. But my most memorable was with him as well 2 years prior, or maybe it was a year prior, in Sonora. It was a different property. And we found, he knew there was a couple of big deer on this particular property. We were glassing them one evening out in a field. It was right at sundown, and there was probably, I would guess maybe, I don't know, 40 to 60 axis in this field, just kind of filtering out of some woods. And we found one, sure enough, just towed. And we thought, man, like, it was too dark for us to shoot. He was probably 400 yards away. Couldn't see him real well. So we thought, okay, we know he's in that area. Let's just kind of make a game plan. We backed out of there, went back and kind of made a plan for the next day. Actually ended up seeing the deer probably 2 p.m. the afternoon the next afternoon in the same area, kind of just grazing around in this little roadbed area where it kind of comes out of the Dry Devils River there, and there was a little road that kind of follows the riverbank, and the rancher puts out pellets and some different types of feeds and stuff out there. And this deer, we had seen him that afternoon, probably 2 p.m., something like that, and he had seen us and kind of ducked back into the woods. I thought, okay, so we just backed out, kept glassing a little bit, and there was a blind that was close to that riverbed right there. And we thought, I wonder if we can go sit in there and see if he'll come out. And so sure enough, we went in there probably 4 o'clock, I don't know, something like that. By 4:30, deer started coming out of the river bed there. And he was, I don't know, 3rd or 4th in line or whatever. And as soon as we saw him, we said, oh my gosh, that's him. It was just, I had a brand new 300 PRC, never killed anything with it. I was shooting 190 grain Hornady CX with it. I mean, just lights out.
The stars are lining up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, it was perfect, man. I couldn't have drawn it better. And he said, big deer. And I had my gun. I was already out the window ready. And this is one of those few times we were actually sitting in a blind. It was just one of those situations where we knew that he was in that area and we had a feeling that he might just pop out. We could just be there waiting on him. And it worked. It worked perfect until it didn't. And I shot. He stopped naturally. He just kind of slowly looked up in our direction, broadside. I put the crosshairs right on his shoulder, squeezed, perfect shot, broke it. I mean, everything was great. I saw him double mule kick. He buckled up. He crashed down on the riverbed. Perfect. Gave him 30 minutes. We went over there, looked. Nothing. No hair, no blood, nothing. Which isn't abnormal. They don't really typically generally bleed as much as some other animals do. Their hide's just a little more, I don't know if it's more elastic or what it is, but I was thinking, well, he's got to be here somewhere. And then after probably 30, 45 minutes of us looking around, we never saw any sign. Brandon found a bullet hole through a branch right in front of him. And I never saw the branch. And I'm thinking, well, dude, even still, I mean, we looked at where he was standing. We looked at where the branch was. And he was, I don't know, probably 15 yards behind it. But, man, I mean, that bullet going, I guess, that fast, even that close range, deer was only like 90, 100 yards from us. But it was just one of those situations where, I mean, I think it hit him, but we never found the deer.
Man,
it's
a lot of people,
lesson learned.
I didn't understand, when a projectile hits a little twig like that, how explosive, so I had the same experience 2 years ago, hunting with a friend of ours, Byron Kay. We were doing mule deer out in Alpine. Hunted, I was expecting this 500, 600, 700 yard shot this whole time. And on the way back, we're in a side-by-side and sitting under like a little weeswatch tree or something. There he was, right? And maybe 100 yards. So I hop out, I shoot, he rolls a little bit, he doesn't go anywhere. And we walk up to him and it literally looks like a shotgun hit him, like buckshot. And trying to figure out what happened. And maybe 10 feet in front of him, there was a twig, as you could tell, fresh break. And you would never have thought it would have done that. But I could see if, that twig's 20, 30, 40 feet in front of the deer, how it's just going to, pattern out to where you might not even hit him. God, that's heartbreaking, bro.
Wow. So your bullet fully expanded and actually began to come apart before it even hit the deer.
Completely segmented and broke into about 5 or 6 different pieces.
Whoa.
Thank God, when it broke up, the projectiles were still big enough to penetrate, but it literally looked like a shotgun hit him. Yeah.
That's crazy. I've never heard of that happening. I've heard of deflection before, but not like that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that was just blind luck that it didn't deflect and I was able to get him. So
yeah.
But I'll take blind luck.
Yeah, that's
I'd rather have dumb luck than no luck.
Yeah.
All day long. Every time I am successful and I shoot something and it ends up in the back of the truck, I think, how the heck did that just happen? So yeah, even after I'm 45 years old now, and I don't think there's a single animal I could look back and think, yeah, that was all me.
That was all me. yeah. I don't think I have any of those either.
All right.
No.
So for the folks,
but yeah, that's. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was going to say, just for the folks listening, obviously, we talked about this a little while ago that, you put together these packages and these hunts. I was going to say, how do they get a hold of you for that?
Yeah, who's the one that who's the guide you recommend the most? Since you're not directly guiding them and stuff and everything, who would you, if somebody called you right now, and I don't want you to get you in trouble because it's going to be like accepting an award at the Grammys, you can't mention everybody, but
or is it better just to contact you and you kind of help filter them to where they go?
That probably so. Yeah. And I mean, I work with a lot of them, and I don't know that any of them would be better or worse than any others. They all run super good operations in totally different types of areas and totally different types of price points, accommodations, number of guides, everything. So if you're looking for a 10-person corporate hunt versus a single guy or whatever, then I may send you to somebody totally different for, and it's one of those deals. I let people filter to those resources themselves, but generally I'll just have some kind of recommendations for people. Yeah. But they can reach out to me anytime on Instagram or my Facebook page. I've got a new TikTok page, and it's all just Axis Addict at Axis Addict, or I think the TikTok is Axis Addict Official, but they can definitely find me and contact me there. So, and we've got a website too, axisaddict.com. And if they want to call or text or whatever, the contact information that's on there, it's me. There's nobody else they're going to.
You're not filtering it through your assistant?
Right. Yeah. I don't have one of those yet.
That's what we tell people. We're like, hey, give us some shout out, give us some ideas when you listen to the show, email us from the website or at the store, or call us. And I promise you it's us reading the emails.
Every time.
Yeah. Because there's only like 7 listeners.
Yeah.
So we'll be honest.
Yeah. We can filter through 2 emails pretty quick.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. And then, we'll give another shout out because you mentioned Frank Baird. Jake's going on a hunt with him today. We're actually doing a podcast with him later. If you do take that trophy Axis,
there's one place to go.
I wouldn't recommend anybody else other than B&B Taxidermy. And if you ever want proof of that, other than, anybody can put pictures on the website and stuff like that, come into the store and look at the quality of the mounts we have on, because they are lifelike. I mean,
that's what I'm trying. I'm trying to get them to change their tagline. Taxidermy is so realistic. If our taxidermy would be any more realistic, it'd be alive.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah,
it looks alive.
They're true professionals.
Well,
the worst professional, Frank.
No. I tell you what blows me off on all their mounts is the way their muscle structure. Like they make stuff look alive. Like it's, if it's canting its neck or its head or doing whatever, it's just, yeah. Mm-hmm. So I would highly recommend too, if you go on one of those hunts. So yeah, guys, reach out to Trey Rigby, the Axis Addict, and he obviously knows his stuff. And I might call you too, because I got to kill a bigger Axis than Jake's Frank's going to have.
Call me anytime. I have a feeling there's going to be an ongoing rivalry.
Oh no, dude, we could go in because this is there's other this has gone through with a red stag before.
I'm telling you now, Trey, if he calls you, there's a bonus if you sandbag it.
I told what's great is
if you just walk up, just break an antler off or something.
I told Frank this exact same thing.
I'm gonna have some serious fun with you two. I can already tell.
Yeah, man, we're pretty easy to get along with. We like to have fun. So,
no, I'm happy to help any way I can. I tell everybody I am by no means an expert. I am very fortunate to learn from a lot of experts, like some of the guys I've mentioned already, but those guys know a whole lot more than me. I'm just a guy that wanted to start an Instagram page because I love Axis hunting and I wanted other people to enjoy it the way I do and learn from each other. That's
how all the good stuff starts. That's how this store started. Moving forward with something you're passionate about. Next thing you know, it blows up and you're doing something that makes you happy. You can't get any better than that.
Absolutely, man.
Well, Trey, we sure appreciate you. Like we said, if anybody has any questions, needs any information on who to reach out to or who'd be best for them in their scenario with Axis hunting, Trey's the guy. Also, if you talk, you can listen to him. He's a stand-up dude. If you have any marketing needs whatsoever, he's the guy to shout at.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Cool designs, great products, even more professional than it seems.
Yeah.
Hey, Thanks, I'll take it.
Which you can't say that about us.
No, not at all.
No.
Basically, just take us and then go 180 degrees. You got Trey.
There you go. Yeah. All right, Trey. Thank you so much, man, for being a part of this. We really appreciate it. It's been a blast, and you are a treasure trove full of knowledge, man. I've learned a lot by this, and you pumped me up too, because I've been skunked for so long, and now I'm ready to run out and try to get another monster.
Well, I am really, really excited to hear. Hopefully tonight or tomorrow, whatever. I can't wait to hear the report. So hopefully you guys have some success, and I'm sure I'll hear all about it. So, and be sure to send me pictures and stuff too. So that way I can
absolutely, brother,
and try to bring some acknowledgement to your success. But no, yeah, and thank you all very much. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. And like I said, I'm here anytime if y'all need me or any of your listeners need help with anything. And not just access gear. Hey, if you got questions about other stuff too, whatever, I can help with in any way that I can. Like I said, I'm not an expert or a professional, but I know a lot of them. So yeah, pretty much anything that you can hunt in Texas specifically, I've got some good people that you can talk to for sure. So
rock on, man. We appreciate it. And to all the listeners out there, we appreciate you so much for listening. I would ask and remind you again, if you can, like and share it, spread the word, tell your friends, because that's the only way people find out about us.
And go do the same thing for Trey. I'm sure you could use the likes and shares just the same.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that.
When you go to that Instagram page, it's going to blow your mind. So, and the website too. So thanks, guys. Y'all have a wonderful week. And yeah, we'll see you here again soon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Circle Star Firearms and Outdoors podcast with your hosts Jake Cawthon and Jason Westmoreland. Be sure and subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. New episodes drop every Monday, and catch up in between episodes on the Circle Star Minute every Friday. For more information, visit CircleStarFirearms.com, or better yet, come see our great new store at 6320 Highway 90 in Anderson, Texas. Until next time, safe shooting, folks.